When I make a riser, it's all about two things. The first element is making sure that it has some depth that's a little bit more interesting than just a pitch bend on like a cool sounding bass. That's what you're going to hear in most EDM songs where it just gets you to the drop. It doesn't really add a whole lot more tension. It's just, it goes up, call it a day. So what I did to make that happen is I used a performer to give it that rhythmic element. Give it a listen. Okay, so that continues on throughout the whole thing, and you can download this patch, and you'll see it gives it a little bit more character. The second element that I like to use is making sure that it has three specific phases that makes it a more interesting riser at the beginning, middle, and end. The beginning, first, I used envelope 3 to make that happen. That's the pluck phase. If you didn't know any better, this would just be a cool pluck sound. But what it does is it lets people know, hey, the riser's here, listen up for it, and it's not just going to come out of nowhere. So listen to how that kind of affects the sound in this patch. If I take the pluck off, it's still fine, but it doesn't really bring itself in, letting everybody know. So that third envelope I attached to the filter cutoff. I attached to the amp on 2 of our oscillators. So that way there's also a volume element too. It's louder for a second and then everything builds together. So that's the first of the 3 phases. The second one is as standard as it gets. You just get something that goes from all the way off to all the way on, and it takes days. See how the attack and the decay phase are both all the way up. So that's attached to the filter cutoff just to make it go from subdued and quiet to loud at the end. That's what every riser from the beginning of time has ever done. So this middle phase is what I'm kind of lobbying for here. This is what I call the morph phase, and what it does is it opens up a couple parameters and closes before the riser's over. So you can see here the attack and decay are shorter than our really long one. And the idea is you'll hear it kind of take away right in the middle of our riser. So give it a listen. Louder, louder. Right here. So there's this middle section that kind of backs off, gets a little quieter and a little weird. And that morphing element gives more tension and it gives you more depth than you would get otherwise. So let me show you a quick initialized patch with these 3 envelopes to get you there. So I think our first most standard one is just getting an envelope on the pitch. Great. I'm going to use a shorter attack just so we don't have to wait through this whole thing for 8 bars each time. So give it a listen. Nope. Okay, that's Standardville, USA. If you've ever made a riser, that's probably how you did it. Bonus points if you did this to make it longer. So back to it. Now we need a good old low pass filter, and we'll have it open up with our first envelope as well. Great. Resonance sucks. Not always, just right now. So our second and I think easiest is going to be adding the plug-in. check it out. Really simple. We just get a louder initial attack to let everyone know, hey, there's a riser coming. And just for good measure, let's add a reverb in so we really get some more character. So first we have our evolver one. Side note, if you don't know what density does, down here, I'm going to just turn off this and bring it up. Density down here, you're going to hear your reverb kind of break apart. It's like you're dropping pebbles on the ground. Density all the way up makes it all blend in nice and smooth. So there's just a little bonus tip. Anyways, so let's even add our pluck into our reverb. No, that's stupid. And I think let's do even on the pitch. Let's go down 12, see what happens. There we go. So we get this evolving element, check. We get the pluck element. But now let's get that weird morphing element. So this, we just have to make sure that the attack and the decay are both shorter than in the evolving one. And what we're going to do here is we're going to attach this to several different elements here that are going to give us this middle phase. Let's try spectrum here. And spectrum is just going to shut it up for a little bit. Okay, let's get a little bit more going. Let's do a chorus so we can really hear when it's coming in and when it's doing its job. We'll even go crazy and have it go all the way up. Okay, and we'll bring these, make these both try to distort our patch here. And keep an eye on the fact that these are all completely off without this second envelope. So, I mean, I'll just turn these all the way up-ish so you can hear it, but this might sound a little aggressive. So, just the goal here is to get this morphing element be the middle of our patch. And let's even try something like this. We're gonna keep everything normal, and then when it comes in, it's just gonna go crazy and then come back down to reality. So let's try that. Normal, normal. There's our crazy. Now that we have a little bit more control, let's give it a listen. And so things really even up as our cutoff gets all the way opened here by our first evolving one. But you can hear when the chorus comes in and when the distortion happens, that's this middle ground that I'm talking about. To even give you a little bit more of the taking away rather than adding in middle morphing effect, we're going to have both of these, and shit, even our chorus. We're going to have all of these be turned all the way up. That's part of our riser now. That's standard. And then they're only going to be turned off during this middle phase. So listen. Make it a little bit longer, and you'll hear that things cut back, they pull back, and they give us a more interesting riser. Obviously, I wouldn't ever want this to be full blast like this at the beginning of a riser, but it's just to demonstrate what this second envelope does. So this is from an initialized patch. Nothing crazy. Standardville, USA. Now the last point here is just going to be attaching a performer instead of your first envelope, only if you want a specific amount of time. That's all there is to it. You need a performer that starts out at minimum 0, and goes all the way up and just hangs there. So by being able to sync it and then give a ratio of, let's say, 2-to-1, 4-to-1, however many bars you want your riser to go, that's all you need. You just need something that is going to dictate exactly how long your riser is going to be. So in this case, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now it's going to be a 4-bar riser instead of a kind of long one. Oh God, that was a pretty bad fuck up. So this is a bonus 4th element of your 3-envelope riser, just to give it that timing element, but you by no means need that for a good riser. So that was a very long-winded first topic. I'm sorry that first topic took a little bit longer, so let's make this a quick, short second topic. And our second topic is having a double pattern performer. So up here, this is our top pattern, this is our second pattern, and it alternates between these two 1 bar at a time. So first of all, this performer is attached to our filter cutoff, band reject cutoff, bandwidth, EQ, lots of different places that have small, subtle effects on the sound. And you can see, for the most part, they're just little bounces, little tiny modulations. It's nothing crazy. It's not like nothing that goes all the way to the top or the bottom. So listen to what it does. So right here, this is one of the key differences between the top and the bottom pattern, as are these 3 triangle shapes. This takes away the downbeat and makes you listen a little bit more to what's going on in the riser section, not just the foreground that you might have in your build-up just before your drop. So these guys down here are great to help distract the attention from, let's say, your main drop sound that you're filtering in. So you obviously want to, in a good drop, have your surprise be the drop where it's the heaviest. These guys make it sound pretty bouncy and fun. So all that I'm doing here with these is just giving you a little bit more variety and a little bit more depth to your riser. So let's get into specifics of how we did that. Obviously, you just want to load up click on load curve and make an interesting shape up top. I used a couple of pretty standard shapes that these guys could do without. Even just using, even just using max and min is a great way to create some depth. But the bottom shape here, I just take a couple of the key elements away. Let's even take it a step further and add a couple more differences. Now, a riser isn't supposed to be the absolute front sound. It's supposed to be a background sound. So I think this much of a difference is going to be pretty distracting. So use your ears to decide what's a good second shape. But now, how do we make it go between these two? Then this should look pretty basic. I just have an LFO that's set to a 2-bar, 2-to-1 ratio pattern so that the square shape is going to make it go between the top and the bottom. Top for the entire first bar, bottom for the entire second bar. And that right there is a double pattern performer. Okay, last topic, almost done. When I make these demos, it's not just to be like, ooh, look at my cool song. It's to give you guys a sense of the different kinds of styles that you can use these patterns and these patches in. So what I did in this one is instead of having like a standard really loud drop, really loud build, I wanted to be able to fit a riser into a softer demo. You can hear there's like very little sound here. It's all very down, very quiet, pretty chill. And so if you want to fit a riser in here, you got to have more taste, and you got to be a little bit more careful. So imagine if right here, I'll take out the riser, if we just had this really big EDM, just a little bit too much. So throwing this guy back in, it's the same riser that we've been using this whole time, same patch, but I set up the macros in a way that the tone fit the demo. So the objective here is to make it add, not take away and be this loud piece of shit riser that eats up the entire frequency spectrum. Don't want that. So all I did in this was basically have this subdued middle is what this macro did. And it's turned about halfway. And all it's really doing is it's just, let's see, this is our second macro. It's just shutting things down a little bit. I think it's just attached to spectrum here. And as you may know, spectrum by default is going to make things a lot quieter, have a lot less harmonic content in the upper range. And that alone allowed me to use this riser in this song. So when you're designing your risers, you want to make sure, let's pull up our 2 patches here. You want to make sure that you have the capabilities of making it quieter, making it more subdued. So let's make this second macro on our... Jesus, let's go back to normal here. Let's make this second macro tone things down a little bit on these distortion elements, even on this chorus over here. Just... See you, dude. And then even the EQ. I'm going to turn down some of the highs. And spectrum, we'll bring it down. So when I turn this macro up, now let's call this softer overall. Okay, normally. And you know what? I mean, let's just have a little bit of fun here. Gonna use a performer here. Probably going to fast forward through this real quick. Okay, so now we're really following what we were doing at the beginning. I have this performer going between these 2 filters. Ooh, crazy. That's a prime example of a great loud riser, but it's not going to help us with the softer breakdown sections or softer songs that you're going to work on. So let's just turn on softer overall, and it's bringing all these elements down at the same time. So you see how that just made it not as annoying, not as loud, and now we kind of have a tone that can fit whatever we're doing. So that's the first point that I want to make on this last topic. We want to have aggressive and we want to have laid back versions. The next thing is using your second filter to give you that morph section that we talked about, using the second envelope, and using patterns, using whatever you want, no matter how you do it. Having these 2 filters here be fundamentally part of your riser is going to make things just more interesting. So already you can hear what this performer is doing. It's just going between scream filter and low pass. It's pretty quiet down here. And I mean, we'll go like average soft. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is let's try making this morph take over from mix 1 to mix 2. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here. I think this might be a little extreme. I'll just turn it down a little. What it's doing is, if we were to keep things all the way down here in this second filter, it has nothing to do with the first now, so it's got this kind of distorted tone to it. That distorted tone is what we're going to go between from our first filter to our second. By going there for a quick second, it's pretty cool. I think we get that performer doing its job. But this morph filter here, or this morph envelope, gives us this middle section that's like gritty, and it's the perfect way to accomplish our second goal from like our first topic way back when, was getting that morph section, getting that morphing capabilities in the middle of our patches. So all I'm suggesting here is that you don't just stick to a low pass filter opening up. You have this middle ground scream filter that you're only using, or you say, band rejects, band pass. Those are both great ones too. You're only using it at specific moments in your patch, not throughout the whole thing. Another good use could be evolving between the two. So instead of a performer here, it'll just start here and then go into our distorted filter, normal low pass to distortion. So use your second filter wisely and have it give you depth. And for the love of God, don't just use this, because that's fun, but also a little stupid. So that's what I got for you guys today. As always, if you have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. Any mastering requests, send to ryan@occstudios.com. And I'll be spitting these out more and more and more because the 100 patches are done. Woo! See you next time.